whether you're sitting on a chair or a cushion, keep your back straight, but keep your neck slightly bent forward. Then your shoulders are level, parallel with the floor, not one higher than the other. And then your arms are rounded, a little bit out from your sides, and your hands are in your lap, palm upward, right on top of the left, tips of your thumbs touching. Okay. And your eyes lightly closed or very slightly open. And your lips are closed, your lower jaw is relaxed. The tip of your tongue rests against the front of your hard palate, just behind your top teeth. So those are the main points. So just try and be comfortable and don't be stiff. It's a relaxed posture, but it's firm and stable. So then find your breath where it goes out and comes in through your nostrils. So that's the point where you want to concentrate. So generate a strong determination. Think, now I'm going to focus on my breath. Without allowing myself to be distracted by anything whatsoever. So then try to keep your mind on your breath for as long as you can. And the moment you notice your mind has gone off your breath, just drop whatever it was that distracted you and just come straight back to your breath. So let's try that for a few minutes, a couple of minutes. So of the two kinds of meditation, this is a stabilizing meditation or concentrated meditation. So it's very important to develop the ability to focus single-pointedly on an object or on an object of meditation, whether it's the breath or a visualization or a conclusion. So by conclusion, I mean the end result of the other kind of meditation, which is analytical meditation, where we think about, we analyze using whatever powers of logical deduction we have, by analyzing a topic from the stages of the path to enlightenment, the lamrim. So last week we were talking about the teaching on the perfect human rebirth, which has 8 freedoms and 10 richnesses. So just briefly, we'll do an analytical meditation on the 8 freedoms. So just remaining in a meditation posture and in a meditative frame of mind. Think, since beginningless time, I've been circling in cyclic existence, dying and being reborn over and over again, dying in one realm, being reborn in another. Most of these previous lives' rebirths have been in one of the 3 lower realms. But this time, I've received a perfect human rebirth that has 8 freedoms and 10 richnesses. So most of my previous rebirths in the lower realms have been in the realm of greatest suffering, in the hell realms, either in one of the hot hells or one of the cold hells. So how fortunate I am not to have been born in the hot hells this time, where the suffering is unimaginable. So even in this life, if someone were to poke me with a piece of burning incense, it'd be impossible. Poke me with a burning piece of incense saying, meditate, meditate. How impossible it would be. So that's just a tiny little source of heat. In the hell realms, the whole environment is burning. The ground is like red hot iron. The whole body is on fire. Absolutely impossible to practice Dharma. So how fortunate I am not to have been born in such a state this time. And to have the freedom to practice Dharma, to to practice meditation. So try to feel a great sense of joy and relief at being free from that kind of existence where the majority of suffering sentient beings currently are. But then even in previous lives when I was free from being reborn in the hells, I was born as a hungry ghost. Most times when I was not born in the hells, I was born as a predator, as a hungry ghost, where the suffering of hunger and thirst are unbearable, and where the environment is extremely difficult to bear, where there's intense heat and cold also. So even in this life, if I skip a meal or 2 meals, all I can think about is getting something to eat or something to drink. So if I'm really starving hungry and someone says, meditate, practice Dharma, meditate, how impossible it is to meditate when I'm feeling so hungry or thirsty. So that's just for a few hours. The hungry ghosts go for hundreds of years without finding any food or drink. So that suffering of hunger and thirst is unbearable. And there are many other ancillary sufferings they experience. So think, how fortunate I am this life not to have been born as a hungry ghost, where there is that intense suffering, and to have been born human with the freedom to practice Dharma. And then even in previous lives, when I wasn't born in the hells or as a hungry ghost, most times I was born in the animal realm, as a land animal or as a fish or a bird or an insect, as a reptile, so many different forms of animal, all of them suffering from incredible ignorance, not understanding the nature of their existence, being and completely at the mercy of others, being, killed by others for food or being abused or used by others in different ways, with no freedom to choose what happens to me. And obviously no opportunity to practice Dharma, even if someone says, recite the mantra Om Mani Padme Hum. As an animal, no opportunity to do that, no understanding of the benefits. So how fortunate I am not to have been born an animal this life, but to have been born human with the freedom to practice Dharma. So while we can't see or really understand the sufferings of the hell beings or the hungry ghosts, we can see all the different kinds of animals and how impossible it is to practice Dharma in such a body. And then even in previous lives, when I wasn't born in one of those 3 lower realms, and I was born in the upper realms, I was born as a long life God. So the life of a long life God is just it's a blissful existence. The body is made of light, radiant, feels blissful, and all one's friends and companions are similarly beautiful. And there's incredible sense pleasures to enjoy. And one's intoxicated by pleasure. So even if we're told, stop enjoying those pleasures, sit down, meditate, we'd brush that person telling us that, brush that person off, thinking they were stupid. So being intoxicated by pleasure, there's no freedom to practice Dharma. There's no way to develop renunciation, no way to understand suffering, because there's no obvious suffering in that realm. So think how fortunate I am in this life not to have been born in the God realms, but to have been born human with the freedom to practice Dharma. But then in my beginning as previous lives, when I wasn't born in the three lower realms or as a God, and I was born human, most times I was born in a dark period, at a time when there were no Dharma teachings available on earth. So even I was born human, there was no opportunity to meet the Dharma because the Dharma didn't exist in that human realm at that time. So there's no opportunity to study and practice. So how fortunate I am this time to have been born human at a time when the Buddha's teachings exist. And I have the freedom to practice Dharma. And then in my beginnings, previous lives, when I wasn't born in the lower realms or as a God or in a dark period, I was born at a time when the Buddha's teachings existed on earth, but I was born in a distant place where the teachings hadn't reached. So even though it was a time when the teachings existed, I was in a place where the teachings did not exist. So I had no opportunity to practice, study the Dharma, no opportunity to practice meditation. So how fortunate I am this time to have been born at a time and in a place where the Dharma teachings exist and to have the opportunity to practice. And then in my beginningless previous lives, when I wasn't born in the lower realms or as a God or in a time or place where there was no teachings, I was born with severe physical defects or emotionally disturbed, under the control of disturbing negative minds very strongly, so that I wasn't able to understand, to receive teachings or to understand them, to understand the benefit of the Dharma. So because of these deficiencies, physical or mental deficiencies within myself, I had no freedom to practice Dharma. So how fortunate I am in this life to have been born physically and mentally intact with the opportunity to study and practice the Dharma, to meditate. And then when I wasn't born, in the beginning of those previous lives, in those 7 unfree states, 3 lower realms, the God realm, time, place where there's no Dharma, with physical or mental difficulties, so that I couldn't study and practice. But I was born in a society or a family that forbade the practice of Dharma, or I was overwhelmed by strong wrong views, such as believing there's no past and future lives, there's no Buddha, Dharma, Sangha refuge, there's no liberation from cyclic existence, there's no existence of karma. I had these strong, materialistic views, or views of mistaken religions, such that I was not able to study and practice Dharma. So how fortunate I am in this life not to have these strong wrong views and to be open to the study and practice of Dharma. So rejoice at this, having received this life with the 8 freedoms, which is very rare, very hard to find. Okay, so that's a very brief and very poorly led analytical meditation on the 8 freedoms of the perfect human rebirth, which is where we got to last time. So it's similar. I'm not going to go through the 10 richnesses, but it's like as we go through these 8, I don't know if there's any poker players here, but you get dealt 5 cards and you look at the one, there's an ace, and then you open the next one and it's a king of the same suit, and then you pick up the next one and it's a queen of the same suit, and then you pick up another one and it's a jack of the same suit, and the next one's a 10 of the same. You've got a royal flush. So one of the best possible hands. I don't know, is there a better one than a royal flush? So as you pick up, you kind of feel a building excitement as you get closer and closer to the perfect hand. So this is a bit like that. I don't want to compare the perfect human rebirth to a perfect poker hand, but because perfect human rebirth, you can do much more than win some money, but it's kind of that building joy. And of course, to really appreciate the freedom from having been born in these unfree states, we have to really study and meditate on each of them. We have to, there are 8 hot hells described in detail in the lamrim teachings. There are 8 cold hells. There are 4 neighboring hells. So, there's these actually 20 divisions of the hells, and then there's even things called the occasional hells. So if you study the lamrim chenmo or liberation in the palm of your hand, some of these extensive lamrim texts, you'll get the detail there. The jewel ornament of liberation. I don't know if anyone watched the golf yesterday, the US Open. This guy, the guy who won it, a couple of weeks ago, he was leading a tournament by 6 strokes going into the final round. And as he came off the 18th green from his 3rd round with a 6-shot lead, which meant he was almost certain to win the next day, he was told that he just tested positive for COVID and he couldn't play the next day. So he was kind of disappointed, to put it mildly. And but he got to play in the US Open this week, and he sunk this really long putt on the last hole to win. And the crowd went wild and everyone's screaming and cheering. And I was thinking, if Lama Zopa was watching that, he would say, that's how we should feel when we think I've received a perfect human rebirth, like going crazy, cheering and it's incredible excitement and joy. So if someone says to us, you've received a perfect human rebirth, there's no emotional reaction at all. It's like, okay, so what? I mean, we have no appreciation really of what we have. Why is that? Because we don't realize just how precious it is, how hard to find, and how much we can do with it. And that appreciation really only comes by studying the teachings that explain all the different other kinds of lives we have received since beginningless time, that we've experienced over and over again. So this is a very important teaching, and it really, and so on top of the 8 freedoms, there are 10 richnesses, like having been born human, having been born in the center of a religious country, which means really where the lineage of the ordinations exists. So it's possible to receive the 5 precepts or ordination as a monk or nun, like that. To have perfect organs, as I mentioned just before, have perfect physical and mental health, not to have created any of the 5 extreme negative actions, which are which are very heavy negativities that almost certainly guarantee rebirth in the lower realms in our very next life, such as not having killed our father, mother, having killed an arhat, having drawn blood from a Buddha, or having created a schism in the monastic community, in the Sangha. So those are 5 personal endowments or richnesses, and then 5 circumstantial ones, having been born at a time when the teachings exist, so the 5 personal endowments are being born human, center of religious country, perfect organs, not having created 5 extreme negative actions, and having faith in the 3 baskets of the teachings, the Abhidharma, the Sutra, and the Vinaya baskets, or the Pitaka. So those are the 5. Then the 6 circumstantial richnesses are having been born at a time when the teachings exist, the Buddha having shown the teachings, the existence not just of the words of the teachings, but the realizations of the teachings in the minds of experienced meditators and yogis, having support of the Dharma friends of the Sangha community, and receiving the kindness of teachers in giving us the teachings, and benefactors in supporting our practice. So these are, very briefly, are the 10 richnesses. So I think, the best collection of teachings on the perfect human rebirth is in Lama Zopa Rinpoche's book called The Perfect Human Rebirth. Maybe there's a link to that was posted last time, and it may be posted this time in the chat. That's a very important book, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, and it's the by far the most detailed teaching on this important topic by Lama Zopa Rinpoche. So the first part is just recognizing what a perfect human rebirth is, 8 freedoms and 10 richnesses. Then there's the, how is it meaningful? Well, it's meaningful or useful in 3 ways. with it we can get the sort of temporal results we want. We can attain, by practicing Dharma, meditating, we can get realizations on the lamrim. By understanding how karma works, we can create the causes for receiving future human lives, either future perfect human rebirths, or we can create the cause for having wealth in future lives. And of course, we can practice Dharma when we don't have any money, when we're poor. Or we can, if we're very wealthy, we can really practice generosity and really support the spread of Dharma. So it's kind of, if we can be wealthy without being attached to our wealth and give it away, then that's, we can create the cause for that kind of life. We can create the cause to be attractive looking, so that people want to be around us, and we can use that opportunity to teach the Dharma. We can create the cause to have powerful speech that influences people. And anyway, there are many things we can do to get temporal results still in cyclic existence. So that's one great use. The second one is we can use it to get ultimate results. So the temporary ultimate result is liberation or freedom from cyclic existence. The great ultimate result, of course, is enlightenment, Buddhahood. So with this perfect human rebirth, by studying, practicing Dharma, we can realize the three principal aspects of the path to enlightenment: renunciation, bodhicitta, and the right view of emptiness. And by practicing, developing those qualities, we can attain enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. So to use the perfect human rebirth is useful for us to attain temporal and ultimate results like that. And thirdly, it's useful, we can make every moment of this perfect human rebirth useful by doing everything we think, everything we say, everything we do physically with bodhicitta, with the motivation of bodhicitta, the determination to reach enlightenment for the sake of sentient beings. So if we understand those three great meanings of the perfect human rebirth, we can really appreciate it more and more. So again, we have to study the teachings to understand in depth what those benefits really are. And in case we sort of shrug our shoulders and think, okay, so I've got this perfect human rebirth, that's okay. I'll practice a bit of Dharma, and then, in the next life, I'll get another one. It's not like that. It's very hard to receive perfect human rebirth. It has these 18 attributes, the 8 freedoms, the 10 richnesses, and each one is the result of a cause. So why there are far more non-perfect human rebirths than perfect human rebirths in existence is because it's so easy to create the cause to be born in the lower realms, or to be born in those other unfree states. It's extremely hard to create the cause of the perfect human rebirth. And as I said last week, it says in the teachings, this perfect human rebirth is received only once. That's an interpretive teaching. It's not a literal teaching, but it's so rare that it might as well be only once. They're so few and far between, perfect human rebirths. So if we see what we have to do to receive perfect human rebirth, we see that we really have to practice Dharma to such an extent that we basically need a previous perfect human rebirth to have received this one. In fact, not just one, but several. So the main cause of being born in the upper realms as a human or as a god is the practice of morality. And the essence of the practice of morality is keeping precepts, taking vows. You know, 1 vow not to kill, 2 vows not to kill, not to steal, not to engage in sexual misconduct, not to lie, not to get intoxicated. So these are the 5 basic lay precepts. And then there are 36 vows taken by novice monks and nuns, and there are 253 vows taken by a fully ordained monk, or the 364 vows taken by a fully ordained nun. So there's all these other hundreds of vows that we can take, all of which keep us on track to move swiftly and efficiently towards enlightenment. So just to receive a rebirth in the upper realms, not even a perfect human rebirth, we need to practice morality. And the essence of the practice of morality is keeping precepts. So there's a lot of details to talk about that, but in this sort of introductory thing, we don't have that much time to go into all the detail. But to receive perfect human rebirth, we really have to practice essentially the 6 perfections. So not just morality, but charity or generosity, patience, effort, concentration, and wisdom. And then along with that practice, which creates the cause, plants the seed of the perfect human rebirth, we also have to make pure prayers. So we pray to our teacher or to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, may I receive the perfect human rebirth in order to continue practicing Dharma, to reach enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. So we have to make these pure prayers that are not tainted with self-interest, but are made purely to benefit others. So to pray that we get inspiration and help to lead our life for the benefit of others. So that's what's meant by pure or stainless prayers. Now, if we make prayers to receive enlightenment without creating the cause, it won't happen. You can't have the plant without the seed. But that seed has to be nurtured, has to be watered, has to have some minerals, has to have sunshine, has to be placed in rich earth. And if all those conditions come together, it'll sprout. So we can create the cause of perfect human rebirth by doing these practices purely: generosity, morality, patience, effort, concentration, wisdom. But the prayers link the cause to the result. So they they bring the future result closer. So the prayers sort of nurture the seed, but without the seed, the prayers aren't going to work. It's like pouring water on concrete, expecting something to grow. So it's hard. The perfect human rebirth is very rare and hard to find again because the cause is hard to create. And the Buddha gave a number of sort of analogies to think about, just to have a visualization. So the best known one is the blind turtle. I think you're all familiar with that one. The Buddha said, imagine this vast ocean. So, as far as you can see on all sides, there's this vast ocean. and it's really deep as well. And then in the depths of the ocean, there's this blind turtle swimming around. And on the surface of the ocean, there's a golden ring floating about. Not a big one, maybe this big. And it's blown by the winds and tides, so the ring can be anywhere. Then once every 100 years, the blind turtle comes to the surface, looks around and goes down again for another 100 years. So the chances of the turtle coming up once every 100 years, this vast ocean with a golden ring, and then putting its head through the ring, I mean, almost impossible, right? So the Buddha said, the chances of the blind turtle coming up and putting its head through the ring are greater than the chances of our receiving a perfect human rebirth in our next life. So that's kind of a sobering thought. So the symbolism is that, the vast ocean is samsara, cyclic existence, the 6 realms, 3 lower realms, the 3 upper realms. The blind turtle is the ignorant sentient being. So the turtle is a sentient being, ignorant is blind. So it can't see the golden ring and sort of aim for it. And the golden ring, of course, is the Dharma teachings. So, and putting its head through the ring is like receiving perfect human rebirth. And then coming to the surface once every 100 years, that's like being born in the upper realms. So most of the time, we're in the lower realms, blindly, ignorantly swimming from one realm to another, the hell realms, hungry ghost realm, the animal realm. Once every 100 years, we come to the upper realms and then go down. It lasts for a very short time, then we go down again to the lower realms, which is kind of our permanent residence. Anyway, so there are other examples, by numbers and so on and so forth. So if you read Lama Zopa Rinpoche's book on perfect human rebirth, you'll get all this stuff in detail. So can I share my screen?
Do you see that option available to you, Dr. Nick? Otherwise, I can make you co-host to do that.
Yeah, I can actually.
Try it.
Am I sharing my screen? So
yeah.
Now what I need to do is this.
There you go.
So you guys see this, liberate the outline?
Yes. Can you make your screen a little bigger, Dr. Nick?
If I do, some of it will disappear. I don't know, is it legible? Anyway, I just go through this quickly. We've put the links to these outlines in the chat before, haven't we?
I did last week, but I'll do so again.
Okay, so look, this is really important to understand. This is the roadmap to enlightenment. So it's like that thing you get from AAA. If you're going on if you're driving from one place to another, I don't know. I haven't done this for years, but they used to. Now you probably don't even need it, but they used to send you these maps with the routes indicated and everything. So the 4 main outlines are the greatness of the authors, to show the teaching has an immaculate source, so that's really all about Atisha. Then there's the greatness of the Dharma, given to increase one's respect for the instruction, so that explains all the benefits of the lamrim. So this is the outline from Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand. Then there's how to listen and teach the Dharma. So, we're all aspiring to become Dharma teachers, since we're all aspiring to become Buddhas. And the way the Buddha guides sentient beings is by teaching the Dharma. So we need to know how to listen to the Dharma, to know how to practice it. And then we know, once we've accomplished it, we need to know how to teach the Dharma to benefit others. So that's all kind of preamble, really. The main thing is this fourth one, the sequence in which the disciples are taught the actual instructions. So the first thing is the root of the path, devotion to a spiritual guide. So you're seeing this? I mentioned that. So what we're looking at, in case anyone's forgotten or didn't read, we're in this short course, we're looking at Khunu Lama Rinpoche's commentary on Lama Tsongkhapa's short lamrim text called The Foundation of All Good Qualities. So it's called The Foundation of All Good Qualities because that's the first line of the text. And it says, the foundation of all good qualities is the kind and venerable Guru. And reliance on him is the root of the path. So that's what this says here. The root of the path is devotion to a spiritual guide. So we did that last year, didn't we? Did we do spiritual teacher? I think we did spiritual teacher.
Yes, we did, Dr. Nick.
Part of the Discovering Buddhism thing, yeah. So, and again, Lama Zopa Rinpoche's book called The Heart of the Path is the most profound and extensive teaching on this topic that you'll find anywhere, well, certainly in English. And look, the root of the path means this is like the root of the tree. If the root of the tree isn't healthy, the tree is not going to be any good. It's not going to have it's not going to grow properly. It's not going to have proper leaves, flowers, or fruit. So the root of the path to enlightenment is finding the right teacher and developing a healthy relationship with that teacher, knowing how to practice. So that's all I'm going to say about that right now. So then the next section is the proper graduated training you should undertake after you've begun to rely on your spiritual guide. So that has two sections. The stimulus to take the essence from your optimum human rebirth, what we call a perfect human rebirth. So that's what we're looking at right now. So just to cover it, the second section is how to extract the essence from your optimum human rebirth. So first we have to exhort ourselves to extract the essence from this perfect human rebirth that we've received kind of just this once. And then the next section is, once we've done that, how do we extract the essence from the perfect human rebirth? So we'll come to that. So this perfect human rebirth has three sections. A short discussion to convince you, which is identifying what is the perfect human rebirth. So these are the 8 freedoms and the 10 endowments, or the 10 richnesses. So so those are detailed over here. So we've already been through all that. So then the next section is the great benefits from the short-term point of view, the ultimate point of view, and thinking how every moment of this perfect human rebirth is useful. So that's so we've already talked about all that. And then thinking about how difficult it is to acquire, thinking about the causes, the analogies, and difficult by nature to acquire. So, so we've talked about that. So this is incredibly profound teaching. It really touches on every aspect of the path. And the reason why we need to meditate on this is because the path to enlightenment is a really long and, you know, frankly, difficult one. There's a lot to study, a lot to understand, and a lot to practice, and there are a lot of obstacles to overcome, external and internal obstacles. So we really need to be totally convinced that this is what we want to do and this is the time to do it. So this teaching is like the rocket fuel that you put in the rocket to Mars or wherever it's going. Long way. So this is part of the rocket fuel to understand how rare and precious the perfect human rebirth is, to understand that this is it, we've got it now. You don't have to look anywhere else. And that it will be difficult to find again. So we really have to seize this opportunity with both hands and, you know, our whole being, and, you know, use it to study and practice Dharma as much as we can. Okay, so then once we've done all that, then we come to how to extract the essence. So here's the three scopes that I mentioned, or as Lama Zopa Rinpoche calls it, the path of the lower capable being, or the being of the practitioner of least capability. So here there are two things: developing the yearning for a good rebirth, and then how to get happiness in our next rebirth. Then the second is training our mind in the path shared with the medium scope, or the practitioner of intermediate capability. So developing thoughts of yearning for liberation and how to attain liberation from cyclic existence. And then third is training the mind in the great scope, or the path of the practitioner of the greatest capability. So that's the Mahayana path. So teaching that development of bodhicitta is the sole gateway to the Mahayana teaching, and teaching the benefits of bodhicitta and how to develop bodhicitta, and after developing bodhicitta, how to train in the deeds of the bodhisattvas. So essentially the 6 perfections. So that's a very brief overview, okay? So that it's very important to understand, and there are 2 outlines. That's the very brief one, the summarized one, and the detailed one that has 4 or 5 pages. The detailed one has like 40 pages or something, because there are hundreds, or really even thousands of steps on the path to enlightenment, and each step is a topic to study and contemplate on and realize. Okay, so so now back to the text. So the first verse was the foundation of all good qualities, the kind venerable guru, correct devotion to him as the root of the path. By clearly seeing this and applying great effort, please bless me to rely upon him with great respect. So that was teaching on guru devotion. And the second verse, which is where we are now, the understanding the precious freedom of this rebirth is found only once, is greatly meaningful and difficult to find again. Please bless me to generate the mind that unceasingly, day and night, takes its essence. Okay, so we've seen all that, very briefly. So Khunu Lama Rinpoche's comment on that verse, I'm not sure if I read it last time or not, but since beginningless time, in numberless bodies, we've been wandering through the 6 samsaric realms, but this is the one time we've received a perfect human rebirth. A rebirth such as this, which is free from the 8 unfree states and possessed by the 10 richnesses, will be extremely difficult to find again. We can see how rare it is by meditating in 3 ways: on cause, example, and number. It's hard enough to find an ordinary human rebirth, let alone one with these 8 freedoms and 10 richnesses. The perfect human rebirth is much harder to find than a regular one, ordinary human rebirth. You can see, you look around the world and see how many people, what are there, 7 billion now, 8 billion, 6 billion, whatever it is. How many of those billions of people all around the earth have received the 8 freedoms and 10 richnesses? Very few, almost none. And how many are going to get it again in the future? Again, almost none. How many people on this earth are keeping even one precept? How many people on earth have made a vow not to kill? Very basic morality, not to take others' lives. Very, very, hundreds, in the thousands out of the billions. I don't know, would 1 million people on earth have taken the vow not to kill? I don't know, maybe 1 million, I don't know. How many are keeping it? Taking is easy. It's like that Seinfeld episode where they're renting a car and they go to the airport to pick up their car, Jerry and Elaine, and they give their name and the car isn't available. And Jerry says, we have a reservation. He says, yes, you have a reservation, but at the moment we don't have a car. She said, well, the reservation means you should have a car for us. And the woman says, I know what a reservation is. He says, I don't think you do. You know how to take the reservation. You don't know how to keep the reservation. So that's with precepts. You know how to take the precepts. Do you know how to keep the precepts? So the thing, my face is all dark because I forgot to turn the lights on. Anyway, you can see enough, right? Maybe I'm better in the dark. So with precepts is the more you take, the better. So 1 precept, 2, 3, 4, 100, 200, whatever. The more precepts we take, the better. The longer we keep them, the better. 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. The more purely we keep them without breaking them, the better. And the more quickly we purify broken precepts, the better. So that's, taking the precepts. You go to the ceremony, Lama gives you the precepts, you take the precepts, then you need to keep them. You need more than 1. At least 5, really, the 5 lay precepts. And then we need to keep them for 1 year, 2 years. So the more years we can keep them, the better. The more purely we keep them, the better. And the more quickly we recognize when we've broken a precept, if we purify it right away. If you have that little booklet called Daily Purification, the short Vajrasattva practice that Rinpoche created for us. Do you have that? Do you have that at the center? Nobody goes to the center anyway. But anyway, you can get it from the archive. Short daily purification, short Vajrasattva practice. In the introduction, as Rinpoche explained, Atisha, the great Atisha, who, the first section of this lamrim outline is all about Atisha, who he was, how he practiced, how he was qualified to write the first lamrim text, the Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment, how he was a valid source for this lamrim teaching. So he used to travel. If you look at the pictures of Atisha, you'll see that he always has this little stupa by his side. So wherever he traveled, he always carried this stupa with him, which is, stupa is, usually they have relics inside them from previous holy beings and mantras and all kinds of other holy, powerful objects inside the stupa. And the stupa itself symbolizes the enlightened mind of the Buddha. So wherever he went, he always carried the stupa with him. So he said, he was a fully ordained monk. He had 253 precepts. So he said, I always keep my gelong. Gelong is the Tibetan word for bhikshu, Sanskrit word bhikshu, English, fully ordained monk. So he said, I always keep my monk's vows purely. And I pretty much keep my bodhisattva vows purely. But my tantric vows, I break them like rain falling. So the essence of the monk's vows is renunciation, not to follow attachment, not to, to avoid as much as possible the three poisonous minds, especially attachment and aversion. So not to get angry and not to develop attachment. So the monk's vows are designed to help us transcend attachment. The spirit of the bodhisattva vows is to avoid self-cherishing, to avoid the self-cherishing mind, to do things for others, not for oneself. So he pretty much kept them purely too. The essence of the tantric vows is to avoid the dualistic view, not to see things as existing from their own side, but to see things as projection of our own mind. It's extremely difficult to do. We've never been able to do that since beginningless time. So that's a really long time to have lived seeing things as self-existent, as inherently existent, as existing from their own side. So with the practice of Tantra, we're supposed to see other sentient beings as deities, to hear all sounds as mantra, and to see all thoughts as the play of the enlightened mind. So, very difficult to do. So Atisha said, so whenever he noticed he'd broken one of his tantric vows, he would jump off his horse, wherever he was, he'd stop everything. Everybody stopped, he'd jump off his horse and he'd put his stupa on a high place, on a rock or something, and he'd do 3 prostrations. And then, then and there, he'd confess the broken precept. He'd purify it immediately without waiting even a minute, So that's how important he felt it was to purify broken vows. So that's, you know how to take the reservation, you've got to know how to keep the reservation. So, even Seinfeld can be a lamrim teaching. So that little booklet, so we can't do that. You know, we don't carry a stupa around with us. We don't even notice when we've broken the precepts. So at the end of each day, before we go to bed, Rinpoche has given us this practice. So then we can do a short meditation, review before we, just sit up in your bed or in your meditation place before you go to bed and, review your day. What did I do? What was good? Rejoice. What was bad? Okay, that needs purifying. I got angry, I got attached, I did this, I broke this precept, I broke that precept. So then before going to bed, if we do this short Vajrasattva practice, then we can purify any negativities that we've created during the day. And so when we do the purification practice, even though, we're trying to purify any negativities we've created during the day, we make it more all-encompassing than that. We think, also all the negativities, all the negative karma we've created since beginningless time, all the vows we've broken since beginningless time, all the negativities we've created with our guru, in this life and in previous lives. So, of course, we try and purify all that, but then particularly we think of things we've created during the day because, you remember from the outline of karma, which we come to soon, but, there are 4 main attributes of karma, that karma is definite. That means, positive karma always brings happiness, negative karma always brings suffering. That's the immutable law of karma. Then the second outline is that karma is expandable, that karma has this tendency to increase, to multiply, to expand, to increase. So that, I think it's in Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand, but Bongo Rinpoche says that if we kill an insect, sort of intentionally, swat a mosquito, that if that karma isn't purified right away that day, then by the next day it doubles, and then it doubles again, and so within a couple of weeks, that karma of having killed a mosquito is equivalent to having killed a human being, which is extremely serious karma. So to stop karma multiplying like that, if we do a purification at the end of every day before we go to bed, and just, even if we can't remember all the negative karmas we've created, if we just think, I've created a lot of karma this day, I'm purifying it, and we do recite the Vajrasattva mantra 21 times, with the visualization, the downward purification, the upward purification, the instantaneous purification, they're described in the little booklet. And that little booklet Rinpoche designed so that it fits in your shirt pocket or in your purse, carry it around with you everywhere. So we don't have a stupa to carry around, but we can have our little Vajrasattva booklet so that whenever we notice we've created negative karma, we can pull it out and do the purification right there if we want to. But even if we don't do that, if we do the purification every night before we go to bed, at least we can stop the negative karma that we've created during that day from multiplying, from festering. So we'll come to it, but the other 2 outlines, so karma is definite, karma is expandable. You can't experience the result of a karma that we haven't created. So like I was saying before, if we don't create the cause, we can't experience the result. So even if we pray to reach enlightenment for the sake of sentient beings, if we don't practice bodhicitta, if we don't You know, if we don't practice morality, if we don't practice generosity, we can't experience, no matter how much we pray to get these good results, we won't, because we haven't planted the seed. So you can't experience the result. So if you don't create negative action, you can't experience the result. You can't experience the negative results either. And then the fourth outline is that the results of karma created and never lost. So if we've created a negative karma and we don't purify it and we don't experience it, then it remains in our consciousness to be experienced later. So all these four attributes that I'm talking about in context of negative karma also apply to positive karma, of course. So, you know, positive, you know, as I said, the positive karma always leads to happiness. And good karma is expandable too. I think the Buddha gave the example of the banyans. So you've seen those banyan trees? I think maybe they only grow in India, I don't know, or in the East. But they grow from a tiny seed. From one tiny seed, this huge tree grows. And like in the Buddha's time, he said that, you know, a banyan tree that will, 500 chariots fit beneath, grows from a tiny seed. So we don't have banyan trees, we don't have chariots either, but you get the idea. So he said like that, you know, one tiny positive action can leave huge results. So there was an ancient king in India called Ashoka. He was a Dharma king, and he built hundreds or thousands of stupas, and he had the whole country practice morality by taking the 8 Mahayana precepts a couple of times a month, and so his kingdom was very prosperous, and it was this big Dharma kingdom. And it's said that he was able to be so successful as a Dharma king and to build all these incredible stupas. And he also built these columns that had Dharma sort of edicts that, you know, don't kill and don't steal and different things like that. And a couple of these still exist. As Ashoka's edicts. They say he became the cause that he created to become this incredible, powerful Dharma king in the time of Shakyamuni Buddha was that when in the time of the previous Buddha, he was a young boy, and the Buddha, I don't remember which one it was coming by with on his alms round. You know, like with the monks, they have to go around on the alms round in the morning and beg for their day's food. So he didn't have anything to offer. So he scooped up a handful of sand, and as the Buddha came by, he visualized the sand as gold, and he offered the sand into the Buddha's begging bowl, visualizing it as gold. And as a result of that, then the Buddha saw that and then predicted, well, because of this offering, you will become a great Dharma king. And in fact, he did. So good karma is expandable, just as negative karma is expandable. And then, you know, if we want to have experience the good results, human rebirth, wealth, power, all these things that can be useful for doing bad and can be useful for doing good. if we do them with the right motivation, then create good karma, then we can experience the result. And if we don't do these positive actions, we can't experience the good results. And then, why we dedicate is if we create positive karma and don't dedicate it, then it's vulnerable to being destroyed by anger or wrong views. So if we've created this positive karma, then later we get angry, or we have the thought, oh yeah, I don't really think there's such a thing as karma, or the Buddha was wrong about past and future lives. I mean, some wrong views like that, they can destroy the merit that we've created. So we always want to dedicate and preserve it for the enlightenment of all sentient beings. So dedicated positive karma is never lost, and the result, and it remains there until we reach enlightenment. Helping us reach enlightenment. So then Khunu Lama Rinpoche goes on, the perfect human rebirth gives us a chance of continuing to be reborn in the realms of suffering or of attaining enlightenment. It offers every possibility. Therefore, it's highly significant. What we should use it for is attaining enlightenment. Since we've received a perfect human rebirth just this once, we should use it to attain enlightenment. Therefore, the teaching says, please bless me to generate the mind that unceasingly, day and night, takes the essence of the perfect human rebirth. How do we take the essence? By practicing these three levels of path: the lower capable being, the intermediate capable being, and the great capable being. So the result of the path of the lower capable being is to get better, is to avoid rebirth in the lower realms. So that's good as far as it goes, but it doesn't go all that far because we're still in cyclic existence and we still can fall to the lower realms. So it's not a very stable, it's a good result, but not a stable one, and doesn't last that long. That's why it's called a temporal result. The result of the path of the practitioner of intermediate capability is liberation from all of cyclic existence. So that's a lower ultimate result. So it's an ultimate result in that once we've attained liberation or nirvana, we can never fall back into cyclic existence. We can never experience suffering again because suffering is the result of a cause, and we've totally eradicated the cause. The root cause of suffering is ignorance. Ignorance, not knowing the ultimate nature of our own mind, not knowing the nature of the self. So once we've realized emptiness or the ultimate reality, once we've fully realized ultimate reality, ignorance is gone. So there's no place for ignorance from which future ignorance can arise. It's like, pulling weeds out by the root. They can never grow again. So if we pull our ignorance out by the root, it can never come back. So liberation is, transcending our ego, freeing ourselves from karma. That's a huge result. And the experience is one of, everlasting blissful happiness. But it's still not enlightenment. It's good for us, but not so great for everybody else, because, we're absorbed in the bliss of liberation, and in that state, we're not really able to do actions that benefit others. So we're not out there doing harm, but we're not out there doing good either. So the great ultimate result is enlightenment, where we work for the enlightenment of all sentient beings. So that's the result of the path of the great practitioner of greatest capacity or greatest capability. So that's how we extract the essence. And if we want to experience the result of the path of the practitioner of greatest capability, we need to practice, we need to go through those lower levels as well. So it's like if you want to take an elevator to the third floor, then you have to well, this is where we have cultural differences, because you Americans call the ground floor the first floor. So whereas in English-speaking countries, the first floor is actually the one above the ground floor. So you don't take an elevator to the first floor here, you take an elevator to the first floor there. But let's say you're on the ground floor, on the first floor, and you want to take an elevator to the next floor, to the top floor, then you need to go through those other floors, okay? So like that, if we want to achieve the path of the practitioner of greatest capability, we have to traverse the lower two paths as part of the process. So then Khunu Lama Rinpoche says, the next verse tells us that the perfect human rebirth is not only difficult to find, but also decays very quickly, like a water bubble. So the verse says, this life is as impermanent as a water bubble. Remember how quickly it decays and death comes. After death, just like a shadow follows the body, the results of negative and positive karma ensue. So Rinpoche says, death is certain, but when it will arrive is not. One thing that's for sure is that we're not going to live for 100 years. 100 years from now, pretty much everybody alive today will be dead. It's very important to remember impermanence. The Kadampa Geshis used to remember impermanence all the time in order to avoid seeking the comfort of the temporal life. They felt that if they didn't bring it to mind in the morning, they were in danger of wasting the entire afternoon. And if they didn't bring it to mind in the afternoon, they were in danger of wasting the whole night. By constantly keeping impermanence in mind, they were able to prevent the meaningless thought seeking only the comfort of this life from arising. After death, our mind doesn't come to a complete stop, like water drying up or a flame going out. There is continuity. Just as wherever the body goes, the shadow comes along with it, similarly, wherever our mind goes, our karma comes along too. You must have unshakably firm belief in this. So that's what the verse says. Life is impermanent as a water bubble. Remember how quickly it decays and death comes. After death, just like a shadow follows the body, the results of negative and positive karma ensue. So I said before that the meditation on the perfect human rebirth is part of the rocket fuel that propels us to that, far distant goal of enlightenment. There are, long path, obstacles to overcome. We need a lot of energy to keep going. So part of that energy comes from realizing perfect human rebirth. The other part of that energy comes from realizing that, yes, I have a perfect human rebirth with all these incredible possibilities, but it's not going to last forever. And it's going to be hard to get another one. And even so, not only is this life going to finish, but I don't know when it's going to finish. It could finish any moment, could finish this afternoon, could finish tonight, before I've had enough time to practice Dharma, before I've taken enough precepts, before I've had time to keep them purely for a long time, before I've had time to purify my beginningless negative karma, I'm going to die. And if I die soon, for sure, I've got this huge mountain of negative karma. I've got this tiny little bit of positive karma. What are the odds of the positive karma, this tiny positive karma ripening at the time of death? At the time of death, when our mind leaves our body, the last karma that ripens is what we call the throwing karma, or the precipitating karma, the karma that throws us into our next life. So if a negative karma arises, we get thrown into the lower realms. If a positive karma arises, we get thrown into the upper realms. But just on amount alone, the odds of the positive karma arising, like they did in our previous life. Our previous life died and we were thrown into this life. It was like a miracle. We have this huge mountain still with us of negative karma that we've been creating since beginningless time. So somehow we had the good fortune for the positive karma to ripen. Here we are, human, we kind of take it for granted. We kind of have this feeling, oh, well, this life's going to last a long time. I'm not going to die today. So we don't feel any sense of urgency to practice. We don't have an appreciation of the perfect human rebirth. It's like, I didn't seem to have to do much to get this one. Here I am, I just got it. We don't really understand where we came from or what the causes were that brought us here. And we don't understand that we're going to die very soon, before we had enough chance to practice Dharma. So it's very important to meditate on death. Because, the meditation on perfect human rebirth gives us this kind of energy to make best use of this incredibly rare, precious opportunity we have. The meditation on impermanence and death says, and we have to do it right now, because this life is so short and getting shorter all the time. We're speeding towards the time when our mind is going to leave the body, and we don't know when that's going to happen. So there's really no time to waste. So this kind of energy from these two meditations really can help propel our Dharma practice and keep us on track and keep us from getting distracted. And then we, won't waste our time watching Seinfeld or golf. So, some of us, like me, have a long way to go. Okay. So, anyone have any questions so far? Anyone put any questions in the chat or anything like that?
Mary Camille has a question.
Okay, go.
Mary, are you there?
She's just pretending to be here. She's out watching Seinfeld. Oh, no, there she is.
No, I had to lay down. I've got a splitting headache. But I didn't want to miss the teaching. So Dr. Nick, my question is on the Wish Fulfilling Golden Sun text. Is that only available in the PDF, or is that also available in hard copy?
Do you have a printer? If you have
It's a lot of pages. So I
take it to Staples. It costs you $20. Yes, it's only. It was never. Well, it hasn't been published as a book for a long time. I think I told you the story about the text, right? Didn't we do Life with the Lamas or something? Do we do that with you guys?
Yes, we did.
Yes, and Venerable Amy actually recommended it as a resource for her class, the Discovering Buddhism Module 8.
Yeah, so, that was the first text that came from one of the, it was put together from the second Kopan course. And then after the third course, I started working on it with Rinpoche, and we made a number of subsequent editions over the next 2 or 3 years. The last time we worked on it was 1975. And then for some reason, Rinpoche stopped. And then he stopped using it in the Kopan courses in the mid 70s, I think. Never quite found out why. I think so. That's what we have there. Has been a little bit edited without Rinpoche's input since then, but so, that's only available as a PDF or online,
Okay, thank you. You answered the question.
Yeah, sorry, it took a long time to say yes. No. Anybody else? Yeah, Susie?
Thank you for the teachings.
Welcome.
Did I hear you say that you have to do 21 Vajrasattva mantras when you're doing the Vajrasattva practice in the evening?
Ideally, yeah, 27 or 28.
Oh, 27 or 28. Okay.
Now, if the long mantra, look, we should all memorize the long mantra. It's so important. And we can recite it when we're driving. We can recite it all the time. So very important to memorize. But if you don't have time, or if you haven't memorized it, and
I have memorized it.
If you haven't, then you can just say Om Vajrasattva Hum. It's like the extremely short version. It's better than nothing version. Om Vajrasattva Hum. So you say that 21 times. You can probably do it in 30 seconds. But the long one is more powerful, and it gives more time for the visualization,
So just to be clear, I can do that throughout the day whenever I want. I can just say it all the time, as well as doing it in the evening as part of a proper practice.
Yeah, as informally, you can just recite that mantra. It has incredible power from its own side. But, you know, if you want to do a formal meditation, then it's best to sit down in a meditation posture and recite the mantra and do the visualizations with the 4 opponent powers. I mean, the important thing in purification is not just reciting the mantra. That's just one of the 4 opponent powers. The other, you know, the power of the object, the power of regret, and the power of resolve, as well as this one, the power of remedy. There's those 4 powers we need to bring to bear to do complete purification.
Thank you.
Sure. Anyone else?
I don't see any more questions in the chat, Dr. Nick.
Okay, no, I know it's all pretty clear, isn't it? Yes, so finding firm and definite conviction in this, please bless me always to be careful to abandon even the slightest negativities and to accomplish only virtuous deeds. So, you know, that's the essence of following karma. Firm and definite conviction in this, you know. Remember, there was the first main retreat Lama Yeshe gave us, it was back in 74, was the Vajrasattva retreat, where, you know, while it's incredibly important to do the Vajrasattva practice before going to bed each night, you know, as we've been talking, it's also really powerful if you can find the time to do the 3-month retreat and recite that long mantra 100,000 times in conjunction with the practice of the long sadhana that Lama Yeshe put together. I think someone showed us last time the book Becoming Vajrasattva, which is Lama Yeshe's commentary, and the practices at the end, at the back of that book. So FPMT used to organize, we used to do these 3-month retreats in different places. Could do it at Tushita in India and at Milarepa Center in Vermont, and maybe 1 or 2 of the other centers used to organize these 3-month retreats from time to time. So that's a very, and that was the first long retreat Lama gave us. Early in the piece to sort of prepare our minds for the years and decades of practice ahead of us, not that we knew at that time what was going to happen. And almost the very last thing he said in his commentary before he sent us off into retreat was, do your practice with strong devotion to Vajrasattva and karma. So that clearly has stuck with me. So I thought at the time, that's odd, devotion to karma. You know, I understand devotion to Vajrasattva, the deity. The deity is a manifestation of the Buddha, the enlightened mind. The Vajrasattva is one with the mind of our guru. Okay, Vajrasattva is just Lama Yeshe or Lama Zopa Rinpoche appearing in that aspect in order to help us purify according to our karma. You know, we have this karma to be connected with these teachers. So I can understand devotion to Vajrasattva, but devotion to karma, that was made me kind of sit up and take notice, which I guess it was supposed to do. And this is what it says here, you know, that you know, finding firm and definite conviction in just as a shadow follows the body, the results of negative and positive karma ensue. Finding firm and definite conviction in that when we die, we don't take our body, we don't take our wealth and possessions with us, we don't take our family and friends with us. All we take with us is our positive and negative karma. Therefore, please bless me always to be careful to abandon even the slightest of negativities, because even the slight negativity is expandable. And to accomplish only virtuous deeds, even the tiniest little virtue, just folding our hands when we see these holy objects, or a picture of our teacher, just as a mark of respect, like that. If we do that with faith, that positive karma will also multiply. Then Khunu Lama Rinpoche says, in other words, please bless me always to be careful in the practice of avoiding the 10 non-virtuous actions and observing the 10 virtuous ones. So the 10 non-virtuous actions, I think maybe you know those. There are 3 non-virtuous actions of body, which are killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. There are 4 non-virtues of speech, which are telling lies, speaking harshly, slandering others, and gossiping. And 3 non-virtuous actions of mind, which are covetousness, just greed, wanting better, wanting more all the time, covetousness, ill will, hatred, resentment, so many different shades of anger and hatred, and wrong views, which I've mentioned before, No such thing as past and future lives, no such thing as karma, no such thing as Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha as objects of refuge, things like that. So those are the 10 non-virtuous actions that we need to recognize and avoid. And the 10 virtuous actions are just their opposite. Doing, non-killing, non-stealing, non-sexual misconduct, and so forth. So the thing about karma, it has these 4 attributes. Karma is definite, it's expandable, you can't experience the result of karma you haven't created. Karma created, the result of karma created, never lost. There's also another 4 things about karma, is that there are 4 kinds of karmic result. So if we're talking about negative karma, which we need to do because it's, so creating negative karma, we harm others and ourselves. So we really need to know what it is and how it works and how to avoid it, how to purify it. So negative karma, there are 4 kinds of karmic result. So let's take, let's say what they are first. So there's the maturation result, so-called. The full result. Then there are 2 results similar to the cause. and there's one result, the environmental result. So the two results similar. So there are, another way of dividing it is into a throwing karma and one throwing karma, which is the full karma, the maturation result, and the three completing karmas. So the three completing karmas are the two results similar to the cause and the environmental result. So the two results similar to the cause are the result similar to the cause in experience, where we reap what we sow, the negative things we do to others come back to harm us, and the result similar to the cause in habit or tendency, where we have sort of, where we develop a habit to do this action again and again. So let's take a more concrete example of killing. So for an action of killing, for any action to become a throwing karma, so a throwing karma or precipitating karma is a karma that has the power to, which is what I mentioned before, it's the karma, the last karma that ripens as our mind is leaving our body at death, and that throws us into our next life. So for a karma to have the power to become a throwing karma, it needs to be complete. The action needs to be complete in 4 aspects. So again, 4 things, 4 aspects of an action. What are the 4 aspects of an action? They are motivation, the object, the action itself, and the completion of the action. So taking that concrete example of killing, so for an action of killing to be complete, for an action of killing to become a throwing karma, which will throw us probably into the hells, but certainly into the lower realms, it needs to be complete in these 4 aspects. So the motivation has to be one of hatred, or usually, disdain or hatred or of another living being. The wish to harm, to destroy that other sentient being. Why? Probably because that sentient being is disturbing our happiness in one way or another. That's the way anger arises. When attachment is frustrated or thwarted, anger, irritation, annoyance arises. So the motivation is anger, or one of its branches. The object to kill, there has to be a living being, a sentient being, a being with mind, whose life can be taken. The action, so we either kill that sentient being ourselves, or we order somebody else to kill it. You're in a restaurant, I'll have that lobster. So you order that lobster killed. They pull it out and drop it in the boiling water for you. So the action of killing can be direct or indirect. Both count. And then the completion is that sentient being has to die before you do. So, if you're in a duel to the death with somebody and you inflict sort of mortal harm on each other, but you die before your opponent, then you don't get the full result of having killed that opponent, because you died first. You weren't alive when that opponent died. So it's an incomplete karma. But if, you know, the sentient being dies before you do, then that's on your mind stream. So if a killing is complete, if an action is complete with those 4 actions, motivation, object, action, completion of the action, then that has the juice to become throwing karma. So the result of that is rebirth in the lower realms. Then if it's karma, if karma is incomplete, then or even after you've experienced the throwing karma of that action, when you're born human, these other completing karmas can still arise. So the result similar to the cause in experience of killing is to be killed yourself in a future life by that sentient being you killed or by another. Well, we've killed them all in beginnings lives, so, you know. So the result is to be killed by a sentient being you've killed, or to have a short, miserable, diseased life, you know, with, you know, where you die young and so forth. So that's the kind of, so we see these things happening all around us, people getting killed, you know, people dying in the womb, people being aborted, people dying during delivery, infants dying soon after birth. I mean, any time in childhood, adolescence, young adulthood, middle age, you can be killed at any time. So this is a result similar to the cause in experience. Then the result similar to the cause in habit is we find it very easy to kill. You know, we kill mosquitoes, we kill ants, we spray cockroaches, you know, maybe we even kill human beings. So this is the result similar to the cause in habit, in tendency, you know, where we find it easier. So all kinds of negative actions are habit forming, you know, from cigarette smoking to killing. These are results similar to the cause in habit. You do it again and again. The more you do it, the easier it is to do again. And then the environmental result of killing is being in a very horrible, dangerous place, you know, where, you know, like in a war zone, or, you know, born in just in a city, or a part of a city which is very dangerous, where people are getting shot and killed. We see it all over the place. So, you know, there are many different harmful environments that we can be reborn into. So that's why when we want to purify negative karma, we need the 4 opponent powers, because those 4 opponent powers counteract these 4 karmic results. So there's another cliffhanger. We leave that until next time. So
Mary Jo has a question, Dr. Nick.
Okay. Mary Jo, go for it.
Yes, I had to unmute myself.
You're unmuted.
So to purify again was the 4 what powers?
Opponent.
Yeah, thank you.
They oppose those 4 karmic tendencies.
Yeah. And
I'll talk about it more next time.
All right. So just for my understanding, so can killing a mosquito, can that be a throwing karma?
Yeah, if you're trying to go to sleep and the mosquito's buzzing around and you get really annoyed and you can't stand that mosquito and you think, oh, it's going to bite me, you know, I'm going to get malaria, or, you know, and you develop a strong dislike or even hatred of that mosquito, there's your motivation. You know, you're not going to catch it and circumambulate it and let it go outside. You're going to kill it. So then there's a motivation, there's the object, the mosquito. Then there's the action, you're swatting it, or, you know, you call your husband, hey, kill this, will you? You know, maybe not for a mosquito, but maybe for a mouse, or, you know, you're going to get someone else to do it. And then if that sentient being, a mosquito, dies before you do, then you've got a full house there with the full house of 4 aspects of the action. So that has the power then to become a throwing karma. And unless you purify it by doing unless then you realize, oh my God, what have I done? I've just created a karma to be reborn in the lower realms. Where's my little Vaishasattva book? Here it is. Now let me practice the 4 opponent powers and purify that karma of killing a mosquito. And while I'm at it, I purify all my other previous actions of killing. And while I'm at it, I purify all my other negative actions, whatever they've been. So then you do the practice, and then, you know, if we do it effectively, maybe it completely purified it or partially purified it. And if we keep doing these practices every night for the rest of our life, then we've probably cleaned up quite a bit.
Yeah. Yes. And that killing of things, is that also include like use of antibiotics and things, germicides?
Well, you know, what the dividing line between a sentient being and a non-sentient being is a little hard to define. Generally, bacteria, viruses, things like that are not considered sentient beings. They don't have minds. They don't have a nervous system. But amoebae, I think, are considered, I'm not sure if they're considered sentient beings or not. You know, there's a saying, there's something I read once where the Buddha said that when he was early in his path, he would stop by the puddles, of muddy puddles, and pray for the amoebae and other small sentient beings in the puddle. But then he realized that they weren't actually sentient beings. But I don't know what the dividing line is. Yeah. So the what we need to do is our best. And certainly the things that we recognize as sentient beings, like ants and cockroaches and mosquitoes and you know, parasitic worms and you know, malaria parasites. I don't know if they're sentient beings or not, but anyway, we do our best, you know.
Yes, and the Vajrasattva practice covers all that. Yeah.
But you can't say, well, I'm going to kill this mosquito and then I'm going to do the practice because I can purify it later. It doesn't work like that.
Oh.
No, there are no loopholes. You know, as I think I told this before, there's a mantra for blessing the feet on Trizaragana Hungri Soha. So you recite that 7 times and spit on the soles of your feet or on the bottom of your shoes or on the tires of your car or your bike. And then any sentient being that you step on or drive over that gets killed inadvertently like that, their mind is blessed and they get reborn in the upper realms. So I once asked Lama Zopa Rinpoche in a teaching, you know, said, well, with this mantra that, you know, if you bless your feet and then the sentient beings you step on get reborn in the upper realms, wouldn't it be good to bless your feet and then go and step on as many sentient beings as possible and send them all to the upper realms? And Ribush said, yes, do that. And when you do that, wear those big clown shoes that are, you know, 2 feet long, big clown shoes. And so you can kill more sentient beings with each step. No, you don't do that. It doesn't work that way. You can't bless your feet and then go around stomping on sentient beings. It's only if it's inadvertent. So, so same thing with, you know, if we, you know, we probably kill so many ants and things unconsciously as we walk around on lawns and on, you know, and we drive and insects hit our windscreen. And, you know, we unintentionally kill so many sentient beings. We still pick up the karma of killing. It's just incomplete, because we didn't have the motivation, but there was the object, there was the action, there was the result. So, and also, we can mitigate the result by feeling regret afterwards. At least that sort of makes it less bad, But anyway, we'll come to that next week.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, you guys, thank you. Do we have a dedication? So as I said, we created a lot of merit. We generated bodhicitta at the beginning. And we've been talking about Khunu Lama Rinpoche and Lama Tsongkhapa's teachings here. So definitely we've created a lot of merit. So we want to protect it from being destroyed by dedicating it. So, we'll do these prayers, but what the meaning is, because of this merit that we've created, may I quickly become Buddha in order to enlighten all sentient beings. And I dedicate this merit to that end, to the enlightenment of all sentient beings. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen, rise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish but increase more and more. You who uphold the subduer's moral way, who serve as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving and spreading Manjunath's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplish magnificent prayers, honouring the three jewels, Saviour of myself and others, your disciples, please, please live long. The wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, to the incomparably kind Tenzin Gyatso, I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. Venerable One, to you whose kindness exceeds that of all the conquerors, for those wanderers in far-off places, especially the West, mindful of your loving concern for us, in intentionally descending again into a family of a far distant land, we make this request. O Lama, please, please live long. Beloved teacher, leading your students toward wisdom and compassion, explaining through exacting discernment the steps of the graduated path, you are the unequaled guide. Please live a long and stable life.
Thank
Okay.
you, Dr. Nick.
Thank you, guys. Hope to see you next week.
Absolutely.
Thank you.